The texture on that is nice.
Bagels and lox, lox and bagels, salmon and bagels, smoked salmon and bagels. It's a common breakfast tradition. When I was a pescatarian, it was something that I really enjoyed. One of my favorite breakfasts I always did, lox with an everything bagel loaded with extra capers. I love that breakfast. Now recently I've seen a big uptick of people testing out carrot salmon, Carrot Lox. So I want to test it out, but I want to try out a few things beyond just the carrot. There's also tomato lox, pepper lox. We're not going to test out the tomato lox because I just can't see that being a big thing, but I did buy a red pepper. I want to see how that comes out. I also got one of my favorite ingredients. Let's try the Daikon. The color might be off on it, but we'll see. And then I also picked up some candy striped beets. So lox is traditionally a brined salmon. The word lox is actually derived from a Yiddish word meaning salmon. Now, the preparation and brining of lox essentially came from Scandinavian fishermen who mastered the craft of brining and preserving their fish. Now, lox is known as a Jewish delicacy, but before the 1900s, there was really no known connection to Jewish heritage. Salted fish had its heritage from around the world. The original Jewish salted fish was the salted herring. It wasn't until a lot of families migrated to the US where salmon was cheaper and there was Nova Scotia salmon being imported where we ended up with Nova Lox. So the very first thing that we gotta do before we get started is we want to wash all of our veggies. Make sure you wash them, don't remove any of the skin, just clean off any of the dirt or any sort of like outside debris. We're also gonna preheat the oven for 425 degrees. Okay, so now that we have our veggies washed, all we're going to do for the carrots, the beets, and the daikon, we're gonna leave the pepper aside. We're gonna do a glass baking dish. Now I have some coarse kosher salt. Don't use fine grain iodized salt, use a coarse salt for this. So we're gonna fill up the bottom of a Pyrex dish or glass baking dish. Just a little bit, we wanna make sure that there's no glass showing, all salt. Kind of just make it an even little bed there. Then essentially all we're gonna do is we're gonna place our carrot. I'm gonna chop the top of this beet off because it doesn't really matter all that much. Now that's a very large daikon radish, so I'm also going to chop off probably most of this daikon. We're just gonna use the large end here. Yeah, we can get both of them in there, that's perfect. So these guys aren't touching each other. Now we're gonna take the rest of the salt and just make sure that they're all covered. Now normally you wanna put in this stuff while it's still wet, which helps the salt stick to it. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this in the oven at 425 degrees for 20 minutes. So let's just drop these in for 20 minutes and then we're gonna make our sauce. This is gonna be our seasoning sauce. What's gonna make it really taste like fish? So we're gonna start off with 3 cups of water. They're all gonna get the same brine. And then in the recipe, I'll leave the instructions for each individual one because I know you're not gonna be making all of these, so I'll leave a single serving recipe. I'm gonna do 1.5 cups of soy sauce. Then we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of vinegar, a tablespoon of the juice from capers. Let a few capers drop in there. We're gonna do a teaspoon of smoked paprika. We'll do about 1/2 teaspoon of liquid smoke, and then a tablespoon of kelp granules or kelp powder. Now kelp, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it has a very seafoody, very fishy flavor, and it is really gonna make this thing taste like seafood. Then last up, I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of a lightly flavored oil. That's your choice, what type of oil you wanna use. We might add some more oil later. And I'll be honest, that really does have a kind of a fishy taste to it. Okay, so let's set the seasoning sauce aside. We have our containers for storing our veggies, because these all have to sit overnight. So let's go ahead, we're gonna skin our red pepper. Okay, so we ended up with some skins from the red pepper, not much realistically. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour in some of the brine, just enough to cover it up. We're gonna put a lid on this and then get it in the refrigerator to sit overnight. Here we go, here we go. These guys are nice and roasted. I'm gonna let them cool down for just a bit so that way I can handle them, but they look wonderful. I think they're gonna be really good. We're gonna slice them in some thin slices. Now I'm just gonna kind of like brush off the salt here. These carrots are. They're nice and limp. I think that salt really makes that difference. I'm also gonna chop off the ends, any rough bits. I'm gonna start with this thin slice first. I think it's a good size. We're not gonna use that first one because of the skin. Okay, we'll get that in its cup and ready to go, and we'll just keep slicing these guys. I should have used this when I was making the bacon because man, does that slice perfect. These are the pretty neat beets, I'll be honest. I mean, they just look super cool. So I'm just gonna give this another whisk, and then we're gonna pour it right on over, fill it up. Hopefully we've got enough for all of them. I'm spilling it everywhere. Let me get some in each one. Okay, these guys are all covered. Let's drop them in the fridge overnight. Then we'll be back tomorrow morning to see which one of these makes the best vegan lox. Okay, so here it is. It's actually been 2 nights. Yesterday, I took it out of the refrigerator and I tried the carrot and it still had a crunch to it. I actually attempted to see if I could steam it. The beets were the same way. They still had a crunch to them. It didn't really work. I ended up putting everything back in the refrigerator, letting it sit for another night, and it seems like the texture is now right. So I have 4 everything bagels. Most of the time bagels are vegan. Just make sure you check your labels. I'm also gonna be using some vegan cream cheese spread. Now, the first step, I'm pulling out the pepper. The texture feels right, but I'll be honest, it smells like a red pepper. I will say that kelp seasoning really brings out these flavors. If I were given this bagel, I mean, I might think that was a salmon bagel, you know? I mean, so looks-wise, it looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's see this daikon. I'll tell you the daikon didn't come out looks-wise. It might pass as like a whitefish. It has kind of a fish look to it a little bit, but so this is our daikon. I mean, I'm okay with the look of that. That's not a bad looking bagel. You know, it might actually have a little bit more salmon kind of look than I'm thinking. This is very red. So that might work, but I have a feeling that one's gonna be a little too radishy. So this next one up looks like the beet. I'm telling you right now, like I think if that was like on a sandwich, that might pass as like a ham. We're gonna mess with that a little bit. Or like a roast beef. Don't even know how to plate this one because it just looks like roast beef. Whew, okay, now we are at what everybody is thinking is the winner of it. All of the comments that I get, everybody says Carrot Lox, Carrot Lox, Carrot Lox all day long. So we added a little bit of dill just to give it that look, and you know, dill always kind of brings out some salmon flavor, but here is the red Pepper Lox. Let's see how this one tastes. I have a feeling with the smell, it's still gonna be peppery. It might satisfy a salmon craving, but let's see. So, I mean, that's not that bad really. I mean, I'll say that's pretty good. There's still like a slight crunch from the red pepper, but the red pepper did soften up and has like a nice texture to it that's similar, but not close enough. Still has a crunch that salmon doesn't have. But all in all, I'll say this is a good bagel. It would satisfy the salmon, it would satisfy the lox craving, but I don't know if it's really close enough. I'm gonna give it an A on taste. It's good. I don't know if it's lox though. It's good, it's just not lox. Next up, the daikon. Now, nobody actually makes this. I just love a daikon radish. I mean, I don't know. I think that looks like lox and bagels to me. Like, this is the best look out of all of them, personally. It has a really heavy radish smell, so I don't know if everything's gonna be able to cover it up. Let's give it a taste. Wow, okay, actually. So taste-wise, the radish with like the kelp and all of the flavors and seasonings really kind of came out to have like a fishy flavor to it. And it does have that cold mouthfeel that salmon has, but there is too much of a crunch in the daikon. Maybe if it was to sit in the brine for a few more days, then maybe it might soften up enough. Maybe it might have needed to be cooked just a little bit longer, maybe like an hour instead of 20 minutes. But taste-wise, this one's getting a nice taste. I think this would satisfy a lox craving as well, but pretty close. I'm not sold yet. So the next one up we're gonna try is the beet. Same thing, this one has a really beety smell. So like all of these would be given away by their smell. The texture on that is nice. I'm a big fan of the flavor. It's too beety still, but the texture, wow, if you could cover up that flavor. This is the closest texture that I've gotten. The flavor is just too earthy. I don't know if that would satisfy a lox craving at all. Now last, this is the one that everybody asks for. This is the one that Tasty Girl tried, and no smell is giving anything away with this one. This one has no sort of smell. Okay, this doesn't have a carrot type of flavor to it. The texture is dead on. There's no snap with the texture. The mouthfeel, there's like a fishiness to it, a sweetness and a saltiness. I can see what everybody's saying. That's pretty good. I think this would be the best one to satisfy a lox craving. It has that fishiness, it has that chew, it has that texture. I think I'd be okay with it, and I'd be happy with this. Wow, okay. Well, that's it. That is the definitive veggie lox and bagels test. Everybody was right, carrot wins. But I will say, out of like the flavor, like if you're looking for lox, the carrot one, but this one, the roasted red pepper one, this is just legitimately really good. I'm gonna have this one for breakfast. I realized I just said roasted red pepper. I know it's not roasted, it's just red pepper lox. Gang, all the people that you see scrolling over here on the side are the members of the Sauce Squad. You can join the Sauce Squad over at patreon.com/SauceStache. I really appreciate all you guys, thank you so much. You really, I mean, you're helping do what I do here. If you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe button and click this video right here. This is gonna be another one of my test videos. I don't know which one, but it's gonna be another one of the testing videos. So if there's anything else that you want me to try, make sure you leave a comment down below. I will catch you all later.